It has never been a better time to be a watch collector, because some absolute bangers have been released this year. From Citizen to Christopher Ward to some hidden gems that you definitely haven't discovered yet. Today we'll check out the 10 hottest affordable watches of 2025 so far. Hello there, my name is Kieran, welcome to Top Tier Ticker. I hope you're having a good day. The first 6 months of 2025 has potentially been my favourite so far as a collector. Mainly because we're now seeing more choice than ever when it comes to both style and size. From large divers to delicate dress watches, we're now getting more choice than ever. And these are my favourite watches of 2025 so far. By no means the objective best, but my top picks. These list videos take days to put together, so if you could subscribe, it makes it all worth it. Okay then, let's start off as we mean to go on. And this new release from Christopher Ward is a certified banger. Now I've got to admit, I was a little bit worried that Christopher Ward were going upmarket and sort of forgetting their roots. You know, with the release of the Belcanto, the 12X, the Loco, it was clear that Christopher Ward, at least a little bit, were focusing on higher end pieces. But Christopher Ward just released an affordable dive watch that's reminded us collectors why they're still one of the best in the game. Firstly, credit to Christopher Ward, these watches feature an excellent use of colours. It's the middle of summer, it's quite hot here in the UK, and a little bit of colour on wrist is exactly what you need. Now I think one thing that has to go with a colourful watch is a matching colourful strap. And that's exactly what Christopher Ward did with the Reef with some awesome rubber strap options. Now don't get me wrong, the dials on these watches are beautiful, but my favourite part is when you actually turn the watch on its side. The side profile reveals quite an unusual case. You see, this is a steel shroud that has an aluminium barrel within, and that aluminium barrel is actually painted the same colour, or at least a matching colour with the dial of the watch. You get a super colourful midsection and then the Christopher Ward light catcher lugs on the outer. Plenty of angles, great finishing as usual with Christopher Ward, and I think the cases on the Reef just look excellent. Of course, these are Swiss made watches, so we're getting Swiss automatic movements here. Now there's two sizes to pick from with the Reef, you can either get big or bigger. Now I actually got hands on with both of these watches just last weekend at a watch show, and I have to admit both of them wear much better than you might expect. The 44mm version was a little bit too big for me, but because the 41 has a compact lug to lug, it's under 50mm, on my quite small 6.5 inch wrist it fit like a glove. But the best part here is actually the price. Christopher Ward reminded everyone why they are where they are. The Reef comes in at just £700 on the rubber strap, which for sure makes this one of the best value divers money can buy. Now, if you're looking for a dress watch and also like something that's a little bit unusual, then I think I've just found one of the best dress watches of 2025. Now, this watch is from an underrated French watch brand that I think is going to be big in the future. Now, this brand is for sure design first. There's a lot of watch brands out there that focus on value for money, but Beaubleu is all about how the watches actually look. Firstly, there's serious vintage vibes here. For anyone that's a fan of vintage dress watches, you'll instantly feel that old school vibe here. Without question inspired by the Art Deco era of design, and thankfully we also see vintage sizing too. A lot of watches in this style can often be way too big and sort of lose their elegance, but Beaubleu absolutely nailed it. 30mm case, 39mm lug to lug, and just 8.6mm thick. At that thickness, you might expect this watch to feature a quartz movement. However, it's actually an automatic Miyota 9015. And for those of you who are into dress watches in general, you know that there's not actually a lot of good affordable ones out there. So with this watch coming in at £650, it not only makes it a great value dress watch, but also one of the most competitively priced. It goes without saying that everything on this watch is custom, there's no off-the-shelf parts here. Especially the case of this watch, it almost feels like a frame. The bezel then features a stepped construction, which again is very, very Art Deco. But let's talk about the elephant in the room, the dial, the handset. Yes, it's completely insane and a little bit weird, but this is what Beaubleu do. They use circles instead of hands. And you might think, come on Kieran, I'm never going to be able to read these hands. My eyesight's bad enough. And yes, I agree, there'll probably be a little bit of a learning curve when it comes to using this watch, but I think it's worth sacrificing just a little bit of legibility for something that's so cool. Then we have the hidden lugs on this watch with the mesh bracelet sort of coming out of nowhere, and it's a flat link mesh bracelet that looks very jewelry-like. No doubt exceptionally unusual, but I think without question also exceptionally stylish. Now, we've seen a ton of micro-brand GMTs released over the last couple years, but I think the best looking one of the bunch just got released. Now, I think this one is going to be a fan favourite, and potentially the most popular watch from this video. There is no question here that this watch is vintage inspired, which if you're a bit like me, when I hear that word these days, I think, that's a bit boring. But when vintage inspired is done right, they rival almost anything for beauty. Now this is the first release from this micro brand, which is super impressive given how near perfect the design of this watch is. The dial design, just look at it, wow. Exceptional symmetry, very aesthetically pleasing, and I think Maystone have absolutely nailed the use of colours here. They've not gone over the top, they've kept it quite safe, don't get me wrong, but nailing the use of colour in certain aspects is an area that I see a lot of brands get wrong. It features daggered hands, which are super vintage and just beautiful, and then we have the arrowed indexes, which just look so sharp, and yeah, I just love them. And this watch is a spec monster. Sapphire crystal, 100 meters of water resistance, and solid steel throughout. You even get an on-the-fly adjustment system on the clasp, an automatic Seiko GMT NH34 movement, and thankfully they've put the date down to the 6 o'clock for perfect symmetry. I got hands-on with this watch a couple of weeks ago at the Birmingham Watch Show, and I'm not joking, I circled back around to the table 3 times to see it again. This watch also features the perfect sizing for a GMT, 38mm with a 20mm lug. And guess what? £299 is an absolute joke for what's on offer here. Spec monster, beautiful design, and a price that's hard to beat. Now I called this next one, when I reviewed it, one of the best value watches of 2025. And we're more than halfway through the year now, and I still think that statement holds true. Now the best part of this watch is you actually get 3 choices within the range. Now I don't mean just 3 choices of dial colour like you get with most watches. You actually get a choice of movement. The automatic versions are sort of the most normal looking within the range. Then there's a skeleton option, which of course gives you a little bit of a look into the inner workings of the watch. And then for those of you who want the sportiest watch possible, the chronograph version is the one to go for. I was so impressed with the amount of detail on these cases. Not only does this watch feature great finishing, super consistent, super sharp, but they feature these side panels are actually bolted to the case, which you just don't see on affordable watches because they're too expensive to manufacture. Now, although this watch has an integrated bracelet look, you know, that PRX Royal Oak style, it actually features a regular 20mm lug width, which means you can wear any strap with it. And Monro actually supply a second strap in the box for you to use with the watch that matches the colour of the dial. Again, these are a bit of a spec monster, 100 meters, sapphire, automatic movements, but I think it's the dials here that really steal the show. Applied indexes, that beautiful Monro badge pin logo, and I've always been a fan of the Monro handset. Again, these are bespoke to Monro. Lots of great options when it comes to colour. You can get something super vibrant or something that's a little bit safer. All versions here though come in under £320. My pick of the bunch is the chronograph, 280 quid, what a bargain. Now who would have thought that the best G-Shock of 2025 wouldn't have actually been made by G-Shock? This watch displays exactly why I'm a micro brand collector. Now what this watch brand has done is they've taken the G-Shock formula and turned it up a few levels. Firstly, completely titanium construction here. And now that means that although this watch does have some larger dimensions, because it's titanium, it's super lightweight, comfortable to wear. Now, of course, this is a digital quartz watch, so you might think maybe they're using a Casio module. Nope, this is a custom module made specifically for this watch. It, of course, features time in the center, day and date, and month on the dial. No nonsense, just what you need to see. The design here is extremely utilitarian and, dare I say, maybe a little bit aggressive, but I think the perfect beta watch if you haven't had much success with G-Shock, a bit like myself. And you still get all of the bells and whistles that you'd expect with a G-Shock. 200 meters of water resistance, and yes, of course, shock resistant, which is proudly engraved into the case. And guess what? You actually get a sapphire crystal on this watch. If G-Shock made a watch with a titanium case and a sapphire crystal, how much do you think it'd cost? Because I'll tell you now, they certainly won't be selling it for $230 like this watch costs. Now there's 3 different versions of this watch, some with positive displays and there's one with a negative, and I like this watch that much, I even bought one myself. Now I know I've said I've already featured the best looking GMT of the year already in this video, but this next one certainly gives it a run for its money. Now this one is way dressier than the last GMT that we featured, and for the second time today we're sort of playing on that Art Deco era of design. Now believe it or not, this watch is actually pilot watch inspired. This watch features a cushion case, which you don't actually see that often these days, especially on dress watches, but I think the star of the show here without question is this incredible dial design. The applied Roman numerals give the watch a dressy look, the sector dial is a nod to the past and helps with legibility no doubt, but the enamel dial offers a luxurious luxurious hue. I think everything on this dial has been executed so well, and I think everything just works together so coherently. Overall vibes, Art Deco, no doubt, but don't worry, this watch is also a spec monster. This time we see the more premium Miyota 9075, which is the best affordable GMT movement on the market, no doubt. This watch is thin enough to slide under a cuff, so it can work as a dress watch, and there's actually multiple choices when it comes to case colour, regular steel options, and the gold. $690 is less competitive than the Maystone, don't get me wrong, but you do get a much better movement in this one, and a completely different style, so this one really depends on what you need for your collection. Now, the best dress watch of 2024 just got even better. Dennison relaunched last year, and Dennison is a heritage brand who used to produce cases for JLC, Rolex, Omega, and they came back last year with an absolute bang. However, Dennison just dropped some new versions of their watch that's just beautiful. Firstly, an agate dial. This is a type of mineral that forms within volcanic rocks. This one offers a sort of orange and red colour. Then we have a rubellite dial. This is a rare gemstone, and it features a wavy pattern amongst the gem. This one is purpley pink. But then my favourite is actually the wooden dial. This one is beautifully rich. It has such a luxurious feel about it, and I can't help but look at it and think, what's a piece of wood doing in the watch? Now, because we're using mineral and wood here, every dial is completely unique from one another. That means that every watch is almost a piece unique, because there won't be another watch that looks like yours. No markings or indexes on this dial, just a small Dennison branding down towards the 4 o'clock. These watches are artistic, classical, and no doubt beautiful. Quartz movements might be a deal breaker for some, but that means these watches are nice and thin, and I'm always surprised at just how good the leather straps are on these watches. Super soft, fit the vibe perfectly. Just over £500. Yeah, these watches aren't the best value for money, but I think for sure some of the most stylish. Now, if this is your first time tuning into a top tier ticker video, you might have already realised that I'm a collector that values style and design more so than value for money. There's nothing wrong with getting the best watch that you can for the cash, but often I think that good design is expensive in itself and it's worth paying for. Now, that's not me saying that this next watch is bad value for money, but the focus here should definitely be on the excellent design. Now, the style here is certainly sporty. 60s and 70s inspired, no doubt, and there's a little bit of a nod to Gerald Genta with the bezel and a super cool K-shape that's curvaceous and features a good silhouette. Now, the bezel here is completely polished with those screws, which might be a little bit of a worry, but we do get a sandblasted case which offers a nice bit of contrast. The dial design is super simple here, quite minimal, very clean, but I do like how it features an asymmetrical sub-seconds, and that sub-dial features a contrasting colour and texture to the main dial. Now, we see a Miyota 8000 here, which is a reliable workhorse movement, albeit they can be pretty loud on wrist sometimes. But still, we're ticking a lot of boxes here. Flat sapphire, 100 meters of water resistance, and a classic leather strap straight out of the box. Proportions overall are great, they're going to work for a lot of people. Certainly a casual watch that will work with pretty much any outfit. Now, these watches still are on pre-order, but deliveries are beginning next month. This is an American micro brand, so price here is $445. Awesome style, awesome vibes, and a great addition, I think, to most watch collections. Now, I did not have me talking about a monster dive watch on my 2025 bingo card, but when watches deliver this much style and value for money, I simply have to feature them. On my small wrist, you might think this watch is a 41mm diver, maybe 42, but nope, it's actually a 44mm beast. But because the lug-to-lug here is only 48mm, it actually wears incredibly well. One bad thing here, no question, the thickness, almost 16mm thick. It does wear thinner than that, but still chunky boy. Now, you do get something positive for that thickness, a 500-meter water resistance rating. Don't get me wrong, this watch is all about the wrist presence. I know some of you love your big watches, well, here you go. And this for sure is one of the best spec watches for the money on today's video. Dome sapphire crystal, BGW9 lume, Seiko automatic, solid steel construction, on-the-fly adjustment system, and you get all of that for $349. Monster price for a monster watch. One thing I have to point out is that this watch has great ergonomics, the bezel super easy to grip, same with the large crown, and because this watch is so big and has great lume, great legibility. This one is perfect for those of you who have aging eyes. Sure, not a daily driver because it's just too big, but something fun to throw on over the weekend. One of the hottest watches of the last couple years just got a refresh, and dare I say, they've actually made it even better. Now, I've made it no secret that I think Citizen are on a roll. Epic release after epic release One of the best is for sure the Zenshin, a titanium sports watch with tons of style. But they've just released some new dial variants of the Zenshin that have took it to another level. Now you still get the awesome titanium construction with this one, which means of course it's lightweight, nice and comfortable. You still get the sapphire crystal, so scratches here shouldn't be a problem. And yes, these are still automatic for you mechanical nerds. But just look at these new dial variants. Not only are they heavily textured, so you get tons of detail amongst the dial, but the colours that Citizen have chose here are just beautiful. There's an ocean blue, a sandy-like yellow, and a jungle green. And again, we see another little nod to Gerald Genta with the octagonal bezel. I'll mention it again, I'm a massive fan of the asymmetrical dial on this one. And again, we actually see some relief from the finishing of the dial with some concentric circular finishing within the sub-seconds. This is one of those watches that you should just go out and buy. Don't think about it, just buy it and enjoy it. This one is £350 and I think genuinely competes with micro brands. How often can you say that about the big brands? I think not often. Certainly not with brands like Seiko these days. Citizen yet again show why they're still top of the game. Now I made the bold claim that this next one is the best looking diver of 2025 and I still stand by that claim. Now I appreciate this watch, it's not for everybody. But to some of you, well, just check out this absolute beauty. First of all, golden case, white dial. This watch looks super expensive and in hands it feels luxurious. Don't get me wrong, it's as flashy as they come. You certainly wouldn't want to wear this watch around a major city because you probably wouldn't come home with your hand. Now, although this watch looks golden, you know, a gold-plated case, it's actually made from bronze. That does mean that the watch will patina, but it'll also develop its own character in the process. But I think what works so well here is that metallic white dial. It just looks so pungent and beautiful against the bronze. And Venezianico matched it with a beautiful rubber strap that in totality just looks incredible. Although this watch looks beautiful, don't worry, it's still a proper diver. 200 meters of water resistance, so this one is capable. I'm glad to say this is a no date diver. I know some of you have to have a date, but I'm not really a big fan of them. And just look at those applied golden indexes. Not only do they match the case beautifully, but they match the handset perfectly too. Miyota 9000 inside this one, so it is nice and slim for a diver. And the 39mm case means it should fit just about anybody. €656 from the Venezianico website. Not bad for a watch that looks this good. But if old money vibes is more your thing, don't worry, of course, you know I've got you covered. Finding a good Cartier tank alternative under £500 ain't easy. Trust me, this is an area that I spend way too much time researching. But finally, in 2025, I have a Cartier tank alternative for around £500 that I can actually point you towards. It's clear that the tank was the inspiration here. And that's no bad thing, by the way. But there's still enough originality here to enjoy this watch as its own thing. Firstly, classical dimensions. 24mm case, 40mm lug to lug. And the most important thing, 20mm lug width. This watch, I think, looks endlessly classy on wrist. Again, proper old school, old money vibes. The dial, proper art deco, just like the tank. Roman numerals, railway minute track. And a sub-seconds register actually on this one, just to add a little bit of difference. Gorgeous white dial, black markings, just a clean Duckworth Prestex branding on the dial. This is what a dress watch should be. Clean, classy, sophisticated. Just a Swiss quartz movement here, but the watch is super slim for it. £550, it's not the best value for money, but it's great when compared with other tank alternatives. Hamilton, Longines, Frederic Constant, these guys all offer tank style watches, but they're way more expensive than this. I think for the money, this is one of the best tank alternatives you'll find. Now, when it comes to my personal favourite watches of 2025, this next one is actually in my top 3. Not because it's changing the game or because it's eye-watering value for money, simply because it looks damn cool. Now, the case shape here, it reminds me of like an alien spaceship. There's loads of different angles and surfaces on the lugs, and the sandblasted case for this style I think is a little bit unusual. I've described this one as a futuristic field watch. The dial here is white and it features a minty green ring on the outer, and I think the simple fence post handset was a good choice because the case is already so detailed. But one thing I love, and I know a lot of you will appreciate, a sandwich dial. That means that the loom is actually beneath the dial and glows through, and that means the low light experience here is fantastic. Now, there's actually no indexes on this watch. There is a minute track on the outer, but your actual indexes is the section of the dial that isn't cut out. Solid steel bracelet and clasp with an on-the-fly adjustment system. The model name here is the Rocket, and they've nailed it because it's got that futuristic rocket sort of vibe throughout. Certainly a more casual watch, something a bit different to have in the collection, something again to throw on over the weekend. $359 on a strap, $449 on the bracelet. I'd fully recommend going the bracelet here, and that's because you actually get 2 extra straps with the bracelet version. So with the bracelet package, you've got everything you need. Now this next one technically launched in 2024. However, it only became available to buy in 2025, so I'm including it today. Now the word gather gets thrown around quite a lot, on YouTube, but this for sure is one of the best gather watches that you can buy. And it features one of the cleanest and most stylish designs you'll find around. On the wrist, this watch sits perfectly. The proportions have been absolutely nailed for the ultimate gather. It's big enough to be worn as a casual watch, but small enough to be worn for a dressy occasion if you need it to. This is a classy watch, no doubt, but it also features a 200-meter water resistance rating, a beautifully designed case and bracelet that features a delicious sweep from lug to lug. And to protect that elegant case, we've actually got a hardness coating up to 1200 Vickers, which means that you can beat this watch up and it'll still have that fantastic finishing for hopefully a long time to come. And I've got to say, to be honest, this is one of the best bracelets on a watch that I found under £1,000. Nice little touch I think is opening up the clasp. You'll find some perlage finishing on the inner, which nobody else will see, but it's a nice little touch for you. But let's be honest, the star of the show here is the dial. There's tons of details, different finishes and levels. The applied index is pop, there's a nice large handset, and there's a brilliant choice of colour throughout the full range. There's some more safer options if you want this to be a true gather, or if this is something more fun for you, you can go with one of the more colourful options. Truth be told, you can't go wrong with any of them. Now this next one might be the best value watch on today's list, but not for obvious reasons. You see, I think it takes an enthusiast to appreciate just how good value for money this one actually is, because the value is actually under the hood. Now this watch was just released a few weeks ago actually, but it's actually an updated version of an older watch. Back in 2016, this watch did over $200,000 on Kickstarter. Fast forward to 2025, we have a new version that's even better. Straton is now an established brand, focusing on racing inspired designs, and I think they do some of the best chronographs in the business. The Curve Mk2 might just be their best watch yet. First of all, what a fantastic use of colours on the Curve 2. Green, mustard, pink, blues, and you're getting a classic tonneau shaped case that works so well with the racing theme. Bicompacts for me always looks better than tricompacts. Also great to see a date window down at the 6 o'clock for the perfect symmetry. But why this one made the list today is because of what's under the hood. This one is a mechanical chronograph. And no, it doesn't feature the ST19 like a lot of affordable chronographs do. This one features an automatic chronograph movement. Straton used the Seiko NH86 with this watch, which is a movement that you never see used. Well, that's until Straton used it. For those of you who have been collecting for a while, you'll know that automatic chronographs under $1,000 just aren't a thing. Well, Straton asked for just $799 for this watch. This might just be the most affordable automatic chronograph on the market. Throw in the awesome design, the super stylish bracelet and dial design that you get with this watch. I think Straton have knocked it out of the park. If you enjoyed this video, again, please hit subscribe. These videos take so long to make. Go and watch my last best watches video if your thirst still hasn't been quenched. Go and watch it. I'll see you over there. Bye for now, guys.